Hi, I'm Susan Salomone. Welcome to Viewpoint. I am the co-host of this show tonight, and unfortunately, our host, Lillian Newman, cannot be here. However, I have invited Ray Doherty in to be my co-host. Viewpoint's mission is to educate, entertain, and also to present information that is critical to our communities and to our nation. We do this by bringing in people that are experts in their subject area. And tonight we invited Officer Frank Chibbaro from the Carmel Police Department to come in and talk about a subject that he's very familiar with, and that is the DARE program. So, shall I call you Frank?
That's fine.
Okay, great. Welcome, Frank. Thanks so much for being on Viewpoint. We really appreciate your time.
Appreciate you having me.
So I guess I wanted to learn a little bit more about you before we talk more about the DARE program. Could you tell us a little about your background?
Sure. I've been with the Carmel Police Department for 16 years, and 13 of those years have been spent as a youth officer / DARE officer. So most of my career at the police department has been spent, dealing with children, helping children, talking with children, and educating children. And by far, it's been the most rewarding part of my whole police career.
Okay, so you've been there for 16 years. Did you start there?
I started at the Carmel Police Department in 2000.
Oh, the year 2000.
Yep.
Okay, so where'd you go to school?
I was educated at Mahopac High School, and then I moved on to Pace University, where I studied criminal justice. I got my bachelor's of criminal justice, and then when I turned 24 years old, I got a call to see if I wanted to join the police force, and I jumped right on the opportunity.
Wow.
Yeah, 16 years goes by pretty quick, believe it or not. You would think it sounds like a long time, but 20 years, 20 years is when we can retire.
Oh, wow.
For a career. I don't know if I'm going to be leaving then. I have young children, and I have to pay for their college education. So, not sure. But the 16 years flew by, and as long as I'm still dealing with the kids, I can do it for another 10 years easy.
I was just going to say, so therefore, being in Carmel for 16 years, you certainly have an historical perspective as to how you've seen changes within what's happening with the young people in the community. So we'd be interested as we move forward to kind of hear, some of the differences of some of the things that have happened, over the years and kind of where things are currently in Carmel.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely changed over the 16 years. When I first started teaching the DARE program, the curriculum was a little bit different. It was a little less mature, if you want to call it that, for the kids. It was a heavy say no presentation. Just say no, just say no. And you can see how the kids were, it was more of me standing there lecturing the kids.
Okay.
And, for a 10-year-old, because we teach it in the 5th grade. So for a 10-year-old to have someone stand up there for 45 minutes and just lecture them about just saying no, I can see how, to a child, that can tend to be a little boring.
Yeah.
So they changed the curriculum way back in 2005, I believe. They changed it, and then they since changed it in 2010.
Oh, so it went through two
changes,
upgrades
since I started, correct. And the new message is more of a group effort. We're getting their feelings and their thoughts on everything, as opposed to me standing there lecturing them. It's a collaborative effort, and half of the time I spend speaking, the rest of the half they're speaking. It's not just a lecture anymore. They're totally involved in the lesson from beginning to end, and it's their inputs and thoughts and ideas that help me teach the lesson. They dictate the flow of how the lesson's going to go.
So it's become much more interactive.
Totally interactive, yes.
Now, what does that stand for, DARE? We've all heard of DARE. DARE is, you tell us. Tell us about DARE.
It stands for Drug Abuse Resistance Education. And when you hear that, you automatically think that all we're talking about are drugs. And that's not the message we're trying to get out. We do speak about the 3 main substances that young people tend to abuse, which are alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana. But that's only 2 of the lessons. We have 12 lessons, and we only focus on those 3 substances. But we also focus on, making good choices. We focus on peer pressure, bullying, We focus on being a good citizen, who your help network is if you need to turn to someone. When you're in school, you have a different help network than you do when you're at home. And we talk about all these things about making good decisions by using a specific model. We call it the decision-making model. And it's a 4-step process for them to help make a good decision.
What are the 4 steps? Maybe we could use them.
Sure. All right. And then, I tell them it's something that they can use in their everyday life. Once they learn it, they kind of memorize it and they know they can use it. The 4 steps are define, assess, respond, and evaluate. Define means to describe your problem or challenge. Assess means think about your choices and their consequences. Respond means to use that information and make your choice. And evaluate means to look back and see if you made a good choice. The important part of the whole process is they need to follow those steps in order. And where they tend to get themselves in trouble is when they assess. They think about their choices, but unfortunately they're not thinking about the consequences of their choices. And that's why some of the decisions they make are based on pleasing their friends or thinking about how they're going to please somebody else by making that choice, as opposed to thinking about, if I do this, how is this going to affect me? Are there negative consequences involved? Do I need to think about how someone else is going to be affected by this choice? And for young people, they often skip that step. So we make sure we focus heavily on that assess and to think about their consequences.
For them to understand the consequences of the decision, of the multiple decisions that they might be able to make. Like, this is the decision 1 choice, and this is the consequence of that choice. Correct. I think it's really important to incorporate that part of it. Yeah. I know a little bit about your DARE program, because I teach a prevention program that's similar, and we talked about that. And the decision-making model, I try to give them scenarios like every time I go in. Do you do that?
We do that. Sure, it's definitely part of the curriculum, and they're not always about drugs or alcohol. It could be about skipping your homework to go over a friend's house, and not thinking about how the negative consequences of not doing your homework. Or we tell them, what are the positive consequences of that? And if they can't think of any positive consequences of not doing their homework, then it kind of shows them that doing their homework is the right choice to make. And there are some that are based on, drugs and alcohol, like, hey, I found cigarettes in my mom's pocketbook. Do you want to go smoke? And then we teach them things to say. Sometimes they're afraid to say no because they don't want to hurt their friends' feelings, or friendship is important to 10-year-olds. Their social life is one of the most important things. So they worry about, having their friends mad at them. So we say, instead of saying no, just change the subject. When they ask you that, say, hey, why don't we go around and, shoot some hoops? Let's go play basketball. Let's go watch a movie instead. Or we tell them to give them a reason or excuse why you don't want to do it. Hey, my grandma got really sick from smoking. I don't want to see that happen to you, and I'm definitely not going to do it. So, so no. And then I tell them, well, then if your friend gets mad at you for not doing it, then you really need to start looking at that friendship and see if that person is truly your friend.
Do you, when you first get involved with the class, is there any assessment that's done as far as, because 10-year-olds can be at widely different levels,
sure,
as far as functioning, intelligence, so on and so forth. So is there any kind of assessment that comes in, or is the curriculum the curriculum? The
curriculum is the curriculum. However, the teachers, I have to say, and I only teach it in the Mahopac School District and St. James as well, I teach it. So the classroom teachers are involved. And they know they might have some students that might have a learning disability, and they have an extra teacher in there who can come around and help. And when they're doing work inside the book, I'll walk around and see if they need a hand. But the teachers are always close by, making sure if there's any problems, they help. And it's all on a PowerPoint. We use the smart board, so everything's kind of right in front of them. And there's times where I won't even get to the book because we're just having a great conversation and we're role playing. And if that's going great and I see them doing that, they enjoy that. So why stick to the book when I can sit there and have them, role playing about, being asked to smoke a cigarette or asked to do something that they really shouldn't do, and to watch them interact and say no, and and do it with confidence, because that's what we teach. When you say no, you have to be confident, so the person believes that you really mean no, so they won't ask you again.
Right.
So I'll do that for the whole 40 minutes if that's the case, and we'll make up the work the next time. It's not a big deal.
So now, how long has DARE been around?
It started in 1983. The Los Angeles County School District and the Los Angeles Police Department partnered together to make the program. And sadly enough, the Los Angeles Police Department no longer teaches the DARE program.
Okay.
But
Have they replaced it?
They have, I guess they're doing it through their health. They don't have the police officer come in anymore. They might have an outside person come in and teach something similar. There's a couple of different things they do out there. I think there's something called Clear Choices.
Yeah, I've heard of Clear Choices.
I know they do that in the Maypeg Middle School. And something called SMART. I don't know exactly what it stands for, but it's called SMART.
Have you heard of SMART?
A little bit, but I'm not as familiar with it.
Yeah, DARE seems to be the one that has been around the longest, as far as I know. That
Sure.
I remember that being around. But DARE has a bad reputation.
It does.
And so first of all, why is it only in 5th grade?
Well, it's available in other grades. Unfortunately, the schools are very busy. There's a K through 2 program for little kids. You can go in and they have big place cards, and we teach them about safety, crossing the street, and wearing a helmet when you ride your bicycle, and things like that. And we have the 5th grade program. There is a middle school program.
6th through 8th? 6th,
They
7th, and 8th?
It's for 7th and 8th graders,
Okay,
really.
all right.
Because they're getting in at 5th, so to do it again in 6th would be a little too much. But so it's a 7th and 8th grade program, preferably for 8th graders, I think, because they're about to move on to high school. I think it's a
Okay.
great jumping off point, before they go. It's a little more mature. It's more, reality-based scenarios that they would do and things like that. And then there's actually a high school program. I don't know of anyone who teaches the high school program anywhere around. I haven't seen it done too much. There's also a parent program where parents can come in at night and they're going to be learning the same things that we're teaching them, so they can reinforce it at home, which for me would be great. However, it's hard to get parents, to come in on a regular basis and to do those things. But
So that would be the same number of sessions, Frank? 12? Well, you said there's 12?
there's 12. There's 10 regular lessons, and there's 2 supplemental lessons. One is on prescription drugs, and the other one is I do it on internet safety. That's my own thing that I teach them.
Oh, I think that's great.
So that's something that's not introduced through DARE, but I think it's important because a lot of the things I see that come through the police department are, kids that are having trouble online with friends and bullying and things like that. So I'll do a lesson with them on that as well.
So if you were able to get the parents involved and engaged in this, they would have to come in 12 sessions, or?
I think it's more like 6 sessions.
Okay, so you double up.
You're going to double up because some of the
Yeah.
work, I'm not going to make them do the work in the workbook because they'll probably look at me like I'm crazy.
Right, or even do the role play.
Role playing, but just to let them know what I'm teaching them so they can reinforce it at home. Today we're talking about being confident. So what does it mean to be confident? It means, you stand up straight, you speak clearly, you look the person in the eye when you're talking to them, and that's ways that you can show confidence. So that they can reinforce that at home, just as a dinner conversation, or just something like that. And, if we can get parents to come, I'd be more than happy to teach it.
How are parents included now? So with the DARE program, what are the parents' responsibilities, if any?
They really have none. There is a participation letter that goes home saying they're going to be, participating in the DARE program. But a couple of the schools that I teach in, they have a DARE celebration or ceremony for their graduation.
Right.
And when I first started, I would get almost 100 parents per graduation. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Now I understand everyone's working and stuff like that, so it's hard to get the parents to come in. But we did one at Fulmer Road last year, and we must have had 75, 80 parents show up to the graduation, which I thought was great.
Yeah, that's great. That sounds like almost the whole.
Yeah, well, there's
Group.
there's about 120,
Okay.
125 kids in each 5th grade in each school.
I remember that at St. John's, my son had the DARE graduation,
Yeah.
and they were so proud of it. They had to write a composition, and that was God, I don't even remember when it was. Maybe when you started.
It might have been my
Were you
first.
teaching at St. John's?
I taught it. Mrs. Nichols was teaching 5th grade.
Exactly,
back at
Mrs.
St.
Nichols.
John's. Yeah.
That's who he had, Dylan. Yep, and it was. That's why I was surprised. Right, how I got kind of dragged into this by my son passing away from a heroin overdose. So I didn't really know too much about any of this going on in terms of drug education or anything. But then when I did get involved in it, I learned that DARE didn't have such a great reputation, that it's a just say no program. So when I went to see you about the curriculum, I was very surprised to find out that it's very much like a prevention program that I'm teaching. It has a lot of the same curriculum elements. For example, how do a young adult, young preteens, actually, they're preteens because they're in 7th and 8th grade, like they're just at that teenage place, that awful place? How do they deal with anxiety? Yeah. And do you have that in your program?
We talk about dealing with stressful situations and what you can do in a stressful situation. And actually, I taught it today at Austin Road School. So
okay.
I taught it 5 times, so it's very fresh in my mind. Yeah, we teach them that everyone handles stress differently. So you might see someone deal with a situation, and it might not seem like it bothers them that much, but then there's another kid who might get really stressed about it. Just like something as simple as taking a test. Some kids will stress out about taking a test. Doesn't mean they're going to not do well on the test. It just means that they stress about it. So we came up with some feelings or emotions that people have when they're stressed. And then we talked about how people behave when they're stressed. And then finally we talked about ways in which we relieve our stress. And, they had some great ideas about how they relieve their stress. Some kids said, I go outside and I just run around, the backyard and get some of that energy out. And some kids said, they want to be alone and listen to music. Some kids said, I'd like to call my best friend and talk about it. So everyone has a different way of relieving it. And then we just give them some tips. We tell them count to 5 and slow things down. Just walk away from the situation. Give yourself time to calm down. And if it's something they're stressing, like taking a test or trying out for a team or a sport or a school play, we tell them, just tell yourself you can do it. Positive self-talk. And, they said, I do that. Every time I take a test, I say, I studied, I'm ready for this, I can do it. And then I have them come up and act it out a little bit. And they're really great. They're really
They love to act out. So now I know one thing that coping with anxiety for the 7th and 8th grade, which is different than the 5th, because I teach 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. I did relaxation techniques with them, not counting to 10. That was one of them, counting to 10, but a relaxation technique took about 10 minutes to do with them, where they had to really relax from their feet up to the top of their head. And by the time I finished, the last class I did was 6th with that. Sure. And by the time I finished, there was no giggling. They were calmly sitting with their eyes closed, their hands folded in their laps, their feet planted on the ground. And it was amazing to see the change in them from the beginning of the relaxation exercise to the end of it. It obviously had a physical effect on them. Sure. And so does DARE talk about that, how it physically, that teaching them how to relax physically lowers their heartbeat and their blood pressure? And
yeah, we don't get into the physiological stuff as much. I think they get that in their health, and then they also have people come in to speak to them from outside, teachers that are not from the school, that come in and talk to them about doing some of that stuff. It's not part of the DARE curriculum, but I think it's a great thing, because I think some of the kids do have anxiety about that stuff, and if they know ways to cope with it, coping skills, then I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Is there the ability that if you identify a student that maybe, shares or expresses some anxiety, concerns, issues at home, things like that, is there a way to intervene, or is there some type of process that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if I would notice, I only meet with them once a week.
Right.
And there's 25 kids in the class, and then there's 125 total in each school. So to get to know each kid personally on a personal level, it's kind of tough. But there's signs you can see, and if the teachers are usually on top of it, and if they're not, then if I see something, by all means, I can go to the teacher, I can go to the principal. I have a great relationship with all the schools and all the teachers. They're very supportive, and if I came up with an idea and I thought it was something, then I would, we'd go speak to someone, and we'd sit down as a team and talk about it. So.
And that's it. You're part of a team, so in other words, you have some interaction with the teachers and
absolutely.
with the staff.
Sure.
And great. That's it, because that's important.
It is. It
not
really
be
is.
solitary. So being able to be part of a team and interact with the teachers and have that information, or if someone's struggling with some issues, to be aware of that, I think is very helpful.
Sure. And you get to know the staff and everyone there. A lot of DARE officers, the average time they spend teaching the DARE program is about 3 or 4 years. And then they stop teaching and they move on to do something else. I've been doing it this is my 13th year teaching the DARE program. So I've been with those teachers for, some of those teachers for 13 years.
Yeah.
So we know, we have, we'll talk to each other, personally, and then also, in the classroom, and, they know kids. And if they think there's a problem, they might even ask me, I think something's going on at home,
right.
Could you check out and see if you have anything with this family, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, do you think that it's better for the class to have someone come from the outside? I mean, you have a uniform on besides, so that really, I don't wear a uniform in my class.
You can borrow it.
But, thank you. But do you think that it's more effective to have someone come from the outside than to have a teacher do these, the regular teacher, the classroom teacher, do these prevention programs?
I think it does. You know, for me, coming in uniform, I think is great, but for a lot of these kids, it's their first time having an experience with a police officer. So you want it to be on a positive level. You know, sometimes, you know, we go to these houses and their kids' first experience is, you know, is mom and dad had a fight, and now we have to take mom or dad away with us, and that's their first impression of the police. So if we can get in there at an early age and interact with them on a positive level, I think it's great. But yet they look forward to it, you know, and it's not just me they look forward to. I know they say, oh, you know, so and so's coming tomorrow too. Because they have people from I think Putnam family that go into the classrooms and teach the kids, and they look forward to it. It's something different, you know. It breaks up their day a little bit. So yeah, I think it's a great advantage, and the teachers appreciate it too. You know, they have someone else come in, and the kids look forward to it, and you know, they want to learn.
It's a different perspective for the kids, because the kids are like with their teacher pretty much,
The whole
especially
day.
in fifth grade, they don't change class. Or they
Right.
might change
They
for a
don't-
couple,
maybe,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
for a
but for
couple.
the most part, they're with their regular teachers. And so it's someone else, a different personality, a different way of relating to them. So I think that's great too.
Oh, definitely.
So on another note, do you do anything else besides there in the?
And this, I do. I do tours of the station, like Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts. They'll come to the police station. I'll show them around, let them go into police cars, and you know, try on my stuff, my bulletproof vest and my helmet and all that.
Okay.
Stuff. So I used to be on the lake patrol when we had it in the police department. That was a fun job in the summer. To drive around Lake Mahopac on a police boat was always fun.
Oh, you got all the good jobs.
I do have all the good jobs, but by far doing this is my favorite. I'm also I'm on the multidisciplinary team for the Child Advocacy Center. So if a child is abused or neglected, I do the interviews with the kids with Child Protective Services.
Okay.
We're part of a team. We go and we do it together, and we give presentations as well.
Where?
Anywhere. We're doing one for it's called Protecting Our Children.
Okay.
It's has to do with sex offenders and lessons learned from them, and how we can educate our parents and other child care providers on, you know, things to look out for, you know, when it comes to that. But honestly, the hardest part of my job is doing that, is interviewing a child that was abused or neglected, you know, and sitting there and listening to their story without showing any emotion.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, and dealing with that part. So it's.
Do you do that with a team? Is that a team of people?
It's a team of people. Yeah,
Okay.
It's Child Protective Services. It's the Child Advocacy Center. It's Victims Advocates, the District Attorney's Office, and then the Police Department.
Okay, so they all go into one room, I guess.
Yeah, but we don't have them all in the room during the interview. It can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
So we try to do 2 to 1, and
Yeah,
if the child
okay.
is uncomfortable, you know, one of us will leave the room.
Right.
You know, if it's a girl talking about something, you know, she might be more comfortable speaking to another
Right, a
female.
woman.
So we'll slip out of the room. But it's a team. We all trust each other, and you know, it works. It really does.
How
No, go ahead.
how about drugs? Are you involved with drug confiscation or anything like that?
We have the bin inside the police department where people can come and bring their expired drugs or drugs they no longer need.
Okay.
And they can bring them there to the police department, and one of our detectives handles, you know, taking that all that in and bringing it to be destroyed and things like that. We used to have a narcotics unit that went out and specifically targeted drug activity. However, due shortfalls, we're shorthanded at the police department as it is, as far as manning levels go. So they were put back into patrol, but they were out there every day, looking for the targeted areas, drug areas.
Which are?
The big parking lots and late at night places like that. The bar parking lots and things like that, and they would target those areas and look for signs of drug activity.
One of the things that you mentioned is that most DARE offices last maybe 3, 4, 5 years. You've been doing this for 13 years. Is there anything that you envision or can see that would make the program more helpful, or any thoughts that you would have? Or
The biggest thing would be expanding it to the middle school and just getting a foot in the door there before these kids move on to high school, to get, to reiterate everything that we taught them in 5th grade, one more time in 8th grade, so that when they go on to high school, when they have to make those difficult choices, they know that, there's going to be consequences if they make the wrong choice. And I think that would be a great thing. And then to get the parents more involved.
Right, and now most of the parents are the ones that are watching our show, so is there anything that you would recommend to parents? So if my child's entering into the 5th grade, is going to be participating in a DARE program, what can I do as a parent to really reinforce and really, make note of the fact that they are in DARE?
Right, to talk to the kids, ask them what they learned. And if they have questions, they can always contact me at the police department. I'd be more than happy to sit down with them one-on-one or in a group, and we can talk about those things. And I always tell parents, if you have questions, feel free to call me. I leave my cell number, my email, and I get phone calls from time to time. But the parents do need to be involved for sure.
Do you do any interaction with the PTAs or the PTOs at the school to talk about DARE coming on and starting and when it starts?
We do more internet safety and stranger awareness. We don't call it stranger danger anymore, but we call it stranger awareness. And I meet with the PTOs and we talk about those things with them. We don't specifically discuss DARE because it's done in the classroom. So.
Now, do you find that you have a hard time getting the parents to the PTO meetings?
Oh, sure. It's it's tough, and I understand, parents work and they don't want to, they can't be coming out for every single thing. But, if we can get them there, by all means, we'll give them the information they need.
Yeah, so I think that, we also have events that we do. We run events on drug prevention and the prevalence of drugs in the area. And we find that it's very difficult to get people to come out, what do you think that's all about?
A lot of people think they know the answers and they know, well, if it's not my kid, then I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
But there's signs everywhere that you can see, just maybe educating them on what to look for around the house or what you can look for inside their car that might give you signs that they might be, using drugs or friends are using drugs.
Yeah, we find that is one of our hardest jobs as well. And this show is only 28 minutes, so I have to now thank you for coming. You've really educated the population on DARE, which I thought was so important after I met with you to find out how the curriculum has changed, that it's really been updated, and it's a lot more than just say no. So I appreciate you coming, and I would like to invite our viewers to come back.
Thank you.